Welcome back to the Tailosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Aptera, Mike, and finally, after weeks of asking and asking due to popular demand, we have decided to bring Randy out of retirement. He thought he could escape us. He's back on the show. How are you?
From Godfather's quote, just when you think you're out, they pull you back in. I am reporting to you live from my Johnny Ive White design room background when looking at the Tailosive EV podcast. The move is done. We
It's clean.
It's like a lime eggshell.
It's you got the vibe I was going for. Yeah. For our
limestone.
Lime. Listen, if you're watching this,
No,
That's the whole thumbnail of the show. Lime.
we had like the titanium fork one. Now it's just like titanium lime.
Lime.
I like it. If you're watching this, yes, the background's dry and boring, like my soul and my personality. But hopefully next week I will have something to present for a new, new set, so to say. If you're listening to this, hi guys, I'm back. I know. Why couldn't it have been the other guy? But no, it's me. Well,
Okay, so you're in a new place. For those who don't know, this place you own instead of are renting. I'm curious because we talked about it on a previous show. What's your charging situation look like? Are you interested in the wall connector still, or are you just gonna 110 outlet jerry rig it, or what's the plan?
So okay, short term. 6 months and then long term. Short term,
okay.
I still have my lease with the apartment, and I just charge it over there. It may or it may or may not be walking distance, so I may or may not have to go that far for it. So
is it because the power is free?
Because the power, yeah.
It's free real estate.
I was like, why would you charge it? And then I realized it's included in the rent.
It's hiding. The garage is detached, so I don't pay for a lick of energy, and I haven't for the last 15 months because I have a 15-month lease there. So,
well, that increases your gas savings.
Yes, 6-month term. I'll probably stick with the 110 for that time because, I'm here. It's not a car I drive every single day currently. Long term, wall connector. I'm gonna get the wall connector, hands down. Yeah.
Wow.
I got the space for it. I got the wattage.
Committed.
I got the everything, and I got the funds allotted for it. So it's a phase. We'll phase into it.
Congrats.
I have a priority of other things I need to get done around here first, but the wall connector will be installed as soon as I have my garage car ready. Because right now it's just one cluster of a storage that I have that I'm breaking everything down. I moved over to the apartment, put it in the garage, break the garage down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in break the garage down phase right now. So yeah.
I got you.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Good
Excited
plan.
to hear. You already have a 220 plug in there, right?
I have a 220 plug, but the plug that I would use is actually now in the house because I used to unplug my dryer and I would swap out that way. But my dryer is now in the house upstairs on the back end of the house. It couldn't be further away from the garage if I had tried.
Just snake the cord all the way
park
through.
the car on the second floor.
If the 220 was closer, I don't think I would have gotten the wall connector because there wouldn't be no need. But yeah, this is where I'm at.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I still haven't done
Do you have
anything on
any
that front.
updates? Okay. I was curious because I'm convinced that it would technically be cheaper to charge your car at home.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be much cheaper, but I think it would be.
Probably. I, again, have to redo the numbers. What I really have to do is talk with PG&E because that's who supplies my electricity. I really need to figure out if I go on this new EV plan or whatever, what the rates are going to be, not just for the EV when I'm charging at night, but the electricity during the day, because we use a decent amount. I mean, I guess maybe not a decent amount throughout the day. All we have that's really going is some security cameras. And then maybe the air conditioning.
Oh, those consume a lot.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, maybe the air conditioning because it's hot these days and we can't really leave the animals in a hot environment. So Besides that, yeah, still have to do the numbers. I've been really busy, but I do have the wall connector. So I'm already one step ahead of Randy.
It's waiting around. I think I looked into it because I will also be offered that special EV plan. And the annoying thing is PG&E does not disclose what the official kilowatt hours prices are on that plan before you're onto it. Obviously, once you're onto it, you can check it yourself. But with our current plan, it's tier 1, so it's the same price no matter what time of day. And it's on your bill. So if you just go onto the PG&E website and look at the PDF of your most recent bill, if you scroll down to the power section, it tells you what it is. And for us, it's 31 cents a kilowatt hour, which is not great compared to most of the U.S. It's usually much, much lower than that. In certain places, it's like 6 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on, like, if you're in Utah or something, or, a lower population area. It's so cheap. But from following a few people on subreddits, I'm getting more into Reddit as days go by. There's people on this EV tier in California that are saying, between the hours of like probably around 10 o'clock or midnight to 9 in the morning, it's like 24 cents a kilowatt hour. But then the compromise of that plan is the rate goes way up on peak time, which is typically between like 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's when most people are home and running the AC. And that one was listed at like 50 cents a kilowatt hour. Oof. So it goes way, way up during those times. And then in between, it's like a middle ground. It's somewhere in the 30s. So we were trying to figure out, like, okay, would this actually save us money? Because we want to run the air conditioning probably in the hot parts of the day, which is the on-peak. And we obviously wouldn't charge the car during on-peak, but how much would we save by switching to this plan? And I think we did some of the math, and we estimated how much energy our car would consume and what our daily driving is, and it was like we could save like $4 a month if we switched to this plan. So I was like, tempting. Very tempting. But
$4 a month.
Hard to know for sure.
That's almost enough for Apple TV Plus.
Right.
It is enough for an iCloud subscription.
There we go.
We could afford so much with that $4, but the other thing we don't know is like if the air conditioner consumes more. I mean, in the winter months, it's obviously going to be different, but yeah, if we're on that tier 1 plan, the pricing changes if you consume a certain amount of power. So you can stay locked in at that 31 cents per kilowatt hour, assuming you don't go over a certain amount. It's possible that when we get the car, we might go over that certain amount. So maybe it makes more sense. But so we'll find out. But it's definitely worth it if you can, because supercharging prices
they're skyrocketing.
It's
slowly becoming something where I'm like, maybe I don't drive and get dinner with friends this week, or maybe this month.
Ooh.
I don't even go get dinner with friends weekly. It's maybe even monthly. Maybe I just go home, which I usually do. So, yeah, it's getting tough now. It's becoming more and more realistic to find an electrician, install the 220 plug in the garage, and then have the mobile connector installed instead of skirting by with what I've been doing before, which made sense when I had the free supercharging miles. Now it's just a nightmare. Or it's slowly becoming.
Why'd they have to get rid of it? Why?
They can't keep doing this.
Yeah, they can't keep getting away with it. Well, they have a couple. I've downloaded ChargePoint, and I found a couple free charge stations in my area. And I'm like, okay, we're going there, we're going there, we're going there. So I want to abuse the systems. That certain states are trying to ban that, but while it's here, it's probably going to be really nice. It probably won't be here much longer, but you just got to use the J17 adapter. Which, speaking of, Randy, have you caught the Aptera change.org petition?
I did.
They've been pushing.
Oh yeah.
Did you sign it?
I haven't signed it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
No.
Oh, he hasn't. Oh, okay.
I will.
Why not?
Why not?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you will. Okay.
I will sign it. Will it matter?
No.
Get the
Of
tinfoil
course not.
hat.
It does
You know,
The government doesn't want you to know this, but the ducks are free. You can just take them.
The charge point has 3 locations. They don't know. He loves the Hummer EV, by the way.
does he?
So
Oh,
that
no.
makes me. That reinforces my opinions on the Hummer. Alex Jones' best EV award goes to the electric Hummer.
Goes to the F-150, not even the Lightning.
Okay, side tangent on that for a second. That man is insane, but I listened to him. I listened to his Joe Rogan podcast just because, for the same reason I go to the zoo to admire a different species. But he mentioned that electric. He's of the belief that I disagree with, that electric vehicles are worse for the environment. Or no, not even that. It's so twisted that he likes them. He had this logic of people think CO2 is bad, but CO2 is what plants live on. So it's okay for us to have more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And electric vehicles, because they're powered by the grid and because they cause so much emissions to build, that makes EVs better because they produce more carbon emissions. So he's in favor of EVs for the wrong reason. It's so backwards. So he's like, yeah, carbon. We're a carbon planet. We need more CO2 and whatever. So he was like, yeah, I think the Hummer EV looks great. So very backwards logic.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Joe.
likes it.
I'm a little stupid.
Yeah. But either way, I don't think the Aptera charge port thing is going to go anywhere. But I still think they're right. Mm-hmm. I still believe that it would make more sense to adopt the Tesla standard, but the only reason we won't is because of politics, unfortunately.
No, yeah.
Yep. That's why I wanted to back up from my words last week. If anyone caught that last week I advocated for Tesla to switch to CCS, and then
That's right. We just talked about that.
I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, whoever's listening to this, but then I promote everyone should switch to the Tesla connector, and it's only because, of course, I'm explaining myself, giving myself a scapegoat. I love the Tesla connector; it's great, but realistically, with politics and everything else, and where money goes, and publicity and everything, it's never really going to go that way unless you get a whole lot of people. In which that's why I put my word out there saying, let's try to get more people to talk about this, no matter what you think about whatever. This is a good experience.
Yeah.
There's so many people who have had this good experience, and it'd be better to have a good experience for a majority of people who are adopting EVs and will in the future than to have situations where you try to plug in with a J1772 plug and it's like, you need to reconnect it, or it's going to stop mid-charge because X reason or whatever. So
Yeah.
I would like...
There are people bringing that up.
Yeah.
The Bjorn Nyland was experiencing that. Like the CCS ports don't age that well, and they're not great for accessibility. A lot of people were complaining that, the size of the port and the size of the cable is harder to move around and stuff. And you can use a Tesla plug with one hand. And some people don't have that luxury or aren't as able-bodied as the rest of us. And they say that the Tesla connector is much more approachable, much more accessible to that demographic that can just pick it with one hand and plug in. Most people that are doing CCS got to do two hands. You got
giant anaconda that you're
just right.
handling. Yeah. So
yeah,
I just wanted to clarify that it'd be great if everyone switched to the Tesla connector because it's high speed, it's light, it's got so much capability, and it's so easy to use. But because of how we are as a society, we live in a society, it's more likely or more... If we have to kill this duopoly or this clashing of titans between CCS and Tesla, realistically, with how things go, CCS is probably the easier way to switch because it's one company who has a majority of the EVs in the United States only switching over to the one plug, which would be a bummer, but it's a whole lot easier than trying to get a whole bunch of other companies who use CCS to work with Tesla who might not make it an easy task or a more beneficial task to switch over to the Tesla plug. But it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
The Tesla plug is the best one just because it's so small. It's like small. Just the footprint.
It's the smallest.
It's perfect. It's, dare I say, minimal. I love it. It's so clean.
That's honestly a really competitive reason to not go with another EV. Is just that port design is so much more slick, and it's smaller than the J17.
Yeah.
And yet supports way more power. Regardless, if you're doing a wall connector, if you're doing a supercharger, and Elon has said, not that we should believe everything he says, but he says that they can do 350 kilowatts with that connector. So I know there's a lot of people saying CCS can go faster than Tesla. I think that has more to do with what Teslas can accept, because right now, at least in the US, that's where we use that connector. All Teslas are maxed out at 250 kilowatts. So that's what the supercharger supports. I don't think it's a limitation of that port as to why we don't have 350 yet. Mm-hmm. I think it's just that there's not a Tesla vehicle that can accept one. But he said they can do that, and they could activate it down the road. And he said the Cybertruck would do it. So I also don't think peak charge speed should be obsessed over as much as charging curve. Like, for one, I think in the future we're going to not have bigger battery packs for most cars. It will likely be smaller. I think we'll lean more into LFP in the future, and that's probably going to be 60, 70, 80 kilowatt hour battery packs for most cars. And with battery packs that size, you really don't need 350 kilowatt. It would probably be bad for it anyway. I think 250 is fine. I mean, we don't even hit 250 with LFP currently, and I personally believe that will be most batteries in the future. If you're thinking, one day I want an EV, but I can't afford one yet, and I'm waiting for them to get cheaper, it's most likely you will one day buy an LFP EV, because that's what's going to be cheaper, and that's what is going to scale faster. So those types of batteries don't need 250 kilowatts, and that's why I'm a little bit annoyed when people are like, yeah, but this one doesn't do 350. It's not like in the future everyone's going to have a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. I don't think that's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to drive around a Hummer EV in the future. That's the vehicle of choice. So, and I also don't even think that, because I know some people say that Tesla hasn't proven, or maybe some people know if CCS can do vehicle to grid and the Tesla port can't. I don't know if that's a port design issue or if it's just a software issue. I don't know inherently if there's something wrong with the connector that prevents it from doing that. But I also don't even think that's going to be the mainstream in the future. I think that vehicle, eventually stationary home energy storage is going to be the norm, like power walls and that type of product. And if you're doing vehicle to grid, you need additional hardware anyway. You're going to need an inverter, and you're going to need additional equipment. So I'm saying, if you want to sell a pickup truck or a vehicle with vehicle to grid capabilities, having a separate port for that, or having a CCS and a Tesla connector, I don't know why that's not up for debate. Maybe you could just have both and go everywhere.
Why not both?
For the people who want vehicle to grid, you're going to need additional equipment anyway. So there's no point in saying everyone needs to have vehicle to grid capabilities, because most people charge their cars at night when there's not much power from the sun. So that's when you want to be draining from the battery. And then when you start your day, it's typically right when the sun comes up or before the sun comes up. That's when you want a fuller charge on your car. So I understand why Tesla hasn't had a big push towards vehicle to grid. It sounds kind of interesting in an emergency, but I don't think it's a common enough instance to say this is why we need CCS. Even if there is, I don't know if there is, but even if there is a fundamental port issue design where this port can do it and this one can't, I'm like, it's not worth keeping for that feature alone.
Agreed.
End of tangent.
No, it's frustrating, but what are you going to do? It's either you continue with this duopoly of charge plugs where you get a vocal majority saying, well, I would like to charge here, but I can't. And then you end up with people stuck on the side of the road. Or you force people to go to a certain standard, which may not be beneficial in many ways. Or even if you do, the rollout might not be quick enough. So the way that we're going right now with Tesla starting to, or thinking about, and hopefully starting soon, rolling out superchargers with 2 plugs or 3 plugs or whatever on it, is not a bad happy medium. Because then that way other EVs can charge at these stations without having their parent company to change the plug.
Yeah.
So.
And it may be selfish of me to say, but I honestly just think that Tesla deserves for their connector to be the standard because they started this whole thing. Like when the Model S came out, there wasn't CCS, and I'm probably fanboyish to say this, but I feel like we owe a lot of the EV transition to Tesla. There was not that much public perception that EVs were the future or that EVs were going to become mainstream before them. They kind of kickstarted this trend and convinced everyone you can do EVs at scale and you can do them profitably. And now the public's perception is all changed. Now everyone's saying, when are you going to be all electric? Where's your Tesla alternative? Every car company now has to step up to the plate and showcase, here's how we're going to do an electric version. And I don't think that would have happened without them. So I'm like,
it wouldn't be
if
happening
anyone
at the
deserves
acceleration
to
or
have
the rate
their,
that we're at now. It'd be 20 or 30 years from now we would be having this discussion if Tesla never came about.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They totally accelerated it, even when there was a ton of people saying, no, batteries aren't that good for that. You just do a hybrid or whatever. They said, nope, absolutely zero combustion engine on every model, all in on electric, and a lot of people doubted them and thought that was crazy. So I would say the debate is basically, should we punish the least number of companies or punish the least number of people? Because most EVs are Teslas. So if you choose that Tesla should switch, you're punishing the most amount of people, because now everyone with a Tesla is going to have to deal with an adapter if we switch everything to CCS. Whereas if we punish all of the companies that aren't Tesla and say you all have to switch to CCS, that's going to also punish the people, but substantially less, because Tesla still has more than the majority of market share. So I'm in favor of punish the least number of people. And all the companies that are currently using CCS, they get annoyed and they'd be frustrated, but they're not that high in the ramp up yet anyway.
They're late to the game. Early bird gets the worm.
They're late.
So
make the switch now before later.
Yeah.
Listen,
and
do it.
Biasly,
it's only going to get harder as time goes on.
Yeah, biasly, I'd say we don't change because I'm already established. So no, I don't want to do it. It's as simple as I don't want to.
We were here first.
Here first. I got my car. I'm fine. So no. But like you were kind of alluding to earlier, though, in politics, and that's if Tesla does not get,
it won't happen. I don't believe it. The government won't let it happen.
Yeah, politics at play. Tesla, or dare I say, Elon, not making friends anywhere. He's not friends with Biden. He's not friends with Trump, especially now.
They both hate him.
They both hate him right now. So Elon is he's making it hard for Tesla to be in a favorable light. I mean, if you want to ignore
and even the
facts.
smaller parties want him to pay more taxes, so he can't win.
He can't win. So if he can't win, I want to win. Just because I'm already set up. Yeah. So
I get it.
I think at the end of the day, this petition that Aptera started is good to start this conversation going, or kick this conversation into the limelight. But also, selfishly, it's a great way for them to gain some favor with Tesla. Just showing, hey, we recognize that your plug is good. We got so many signatures and so many people to talk about it. It was trending on Twitter for a day or so.
Elon replied to it.
Yeah.
He saw it.
It's gotten enough.
That's basically an endorsement.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said cool.
Cool.
He put the cool stamp
He
on.
thinks Aptera's cool.
Yeah.
Hey.
Or
now I think
that's
it's cool.
All right, Elon Sheep.
You're right. It's a great publicity stunt for them, even if it goes nowhere. Even if
San
they
Diego
get 100,000
sheep,
signatures.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Sure.
Home turf.
Gotta
This is
support
home
the
turf.
team.
So
That's right.
mhm.
We lost the
Yeah.
San Diego Chargers,
it's
but
a
we got
great
the
move.
San Diego Aptera. So let's go.
Imagine that. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a
Right.
nice way for Aptera to gain some favor with Tesla. And hopefully,
Yeah.
if anything comes out of this, even if it's so small, hopefully it is that small connector for Aptera. So that way they're able to...
If they get the Tesla connector, it was all worth it.
Yeah, it's all worth it. And it would
That
help
was
you,
all worth
Drew, since you are waiting forever for a car that some people speculate, I think including you, may not come if they've speculatively discontinued the LFP Model 3. You have a backup being the Aptera.
I'm a little worried about that.
You're worried about
Yeah.
the Model 3?
I'm worried about the Model 3. Yeah, because
Hey, that's not on my bingo
well,
card.
the good news is, yeah, that's which box do I cross off? Luckily, there have been some people in the past 24 hours since I did my live stream on Wednesday that said they've gotten their VIN. And I actually found a guy that lives not too far from me with my exact order. He has a white-on-white, 18-inch aero wheels, no FSD, rear-wheel drive. And he just got his VIN yesterday. But he ordered 1 year ago. He ordered in July of 2021.
Poor guy.
So the wait times seem to be progressively much, much worse for rear-wheel drive compared to long range and performance.
Mm-hmm.
So since you've brought it up, I'll gauge the panel now. I'll ask what you guys think. Because I'm wondering in my head, like, how long is this going to take? And we've seen Tesla discontinue models that people have on order before. So I don't think it's necessarily likely, but I think there's a greater than 0% chance that Tesla decides we're not going to sell this option anymore because either A, it's not popular, or B, the only reason I say it's not popular is because on several price hikes we've had recently, the rear-wheel drive was not affected. So that makes me think of the Model 3 variants, that one might not be getting as many orders as the other. But it's relying on LFP batteries from China. They have to import them. And the China shutdowns may have delayed deliveries a lot and that kind of thing. But if you're bringing LFP batteries over to America, why wouldn't you put that in a rear-wheel drive Model Y? Now that Giga Texas is ramping up, and clearly they don't have enough 4680 batteries for the Model Y because they've introduced the 2170 line. So that implies to me that they have room for growth at the factory for other chemistries. Like they have the casting presses, they have the powertrains, they have the body shop and the paint shop, but they needed to change chemistries because they didn't have enough 4680s. And they haven't even updated the configurator with the standard range Model Y. So if you're bringing over those battery packs, you could sell them in like a $58,000 or $60,000 rear-wheel drive Model Y that would cost substantially more than the Model 3 rear-wheel drive, and there would still be a huge line of people willing to buy those. So the margins would be thick. You would probably catch up on the Model Y backlog faster, and they already have an LFP Model Y in China. So I'm wondering if that instance happens, should I upgrade to the Model 3 long range because that one would probably be cheaper, or should I just save up or splurge on a Model Y at that point? If I have to spend that much more money, should I just commit to the Y? Or third option, I don't know. That's what I'm torn on right now. Is like what to do if they cancel my order. Obviously, if they go through with it, then great. I would love to go through with it, but I don't know what to do if they screw me.
Well, if they end up canceling your order, there maybe is some negotiation tactics that you could bring in asking, could I get a reduction in the price on a long range and get it this week or this month? So that way there's some compensation for something that I ordered back in May or March. And yeah, maybe you could always just pass it off to the next guy, but it would be at least some good faith that you apologize for this and maybe give me a nice long range for a decent deal. And that's not a bad idea. The long range, I mean, Randy knows from personal experience, is a pretty good car. And
It's my favorite car.
yeah, yeah. And from my experience, my long range is a decent car as well. So it might not be
Can't
a bad
go wrong
idea.
for having more range at the end. I'm just my answer is very short. Just get the long range Model 3 because you don't lose anything out of that.
Yeah. The bummer is you don't
Just more
get
money,
anything
but,
new out of
yeah.
it. You don't get the cool new 4680 cells that you were looking forward to with the Model Y, and you don't get the LFP chemistry in the rear-wheel drive Model 3. So you're kind of just joining the rest of the crowd that has this type of model. And so there's nothing really...
The 2170 gang.
Yeah,
Which
the
is
2170
tried and true, and you'll be fine. Okay, but I know I'm looking at my finger like, which is a great battery cell, Drew. Okay, believe me. Everything else is
Wait.
all speculative, but this one's great.
Randy, did you see the Truth Social post that he made about Elon?
Oh yeah.
Do you think you could read that in his voice?
Yeah. I'll pull it up.
Oh my god.
I'm curious how that would sound.
Yeah.
He would have
Anyways,
begged.
Yeah. I'll find it.
while Randy's pulling that up, it's not a bad idea
Okay.
going for the long range 3. If you want to upgrade to the Y, it's not a bad idea either. The idea of the LFP Model Y coming to America is a bit of a stretch to me because they're already selling a great amount in China, and they've already shown that demand is crazy for that there. So why stretch a little bit thin for LFP Model Ys here? I guess the only reason that wouldn't be maybe too crazy of a hit here because the range would be very terrible unless, like I've speculated before, with all these software updates that Tesla's rolled out for all different models of their car, they have shown some range improvement. So that, I guess, standard range Y that we saw last year that had 2170 cells for a brief amount of time.
Yeah.
That I think had 230 or 40 miles of range. I forget.
44.
244. I'm sure an LFP Model Y might be around that. Maybe they can even say it has 251 and say, look, it's above 250, which is what our CEO said one time, saying anything below that's bad.
Right.
So they can always spin that and it could work.
I just feel like you gotta give into context LFP. Like, in my mind, a 240 mile range Model Y with LFP is better than a 280 mile range Model Y with 4680, which is what they're selling now. Because you gotta charge the 4681 to 80% every day. That ends up being more like 220. So as long as you've got the supercharger network, like I've said before, I totally wish I would have bought the $40,000 Model Y. That, even with the 2170 cells, even with the lower range, that was totally worth it, and we regret not getting it.
I'm practicing.
Randy's practicing.
Yeah, I'm practicing. I'm practicing.
Let's hear it.
All right.
I wanna see this.
Okay.
Here we go.
First of all, he did a speech this week, all right? And he stumbled on the word Elon. He goes, Leons. Elon. He did. He said Leons. Oh, Elon. Another BS artist, believe me. When Elon Musk came to the White House asking me for help on all his many subsidized projects, whether it's an electric car that doesn't drive long enough, driverless cars that crash, or rocket ships to nowhere, without which subsidies he'd be worthless, and telling me how much of a big Trump fan and he was a Republican, I could have said, drop on your knees and beg, and he would have done it. Okay, people.
Oh my God.
Leon.
The irony.
Yeah.
Leon Musk.
He caught him. Oh, yeah. Oh, who called it? I called it. I said that was a terrible deal. I looked at the contract. It was a bad contract.
The rockets to nowhere.
The rocket went.
Because he thinks like the rocket lands in the ocean. Why is it in the ocean, Leon? There's no reason for a rocket to be in the ocean.
Whether it's electric cars that don't drive long enough, driverless cars that crash, or rocket ships to nowhere.
They have this like huge backlog of orders, and he's like, they don't go far enough. The range is terrible.
I could have said, drop to your knees and beg, and he would have done it. And then,
thank you.
and then he smiles, just,
Nah.
Yeah, just a smile.
yeah.
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Elon, listen,
Anyway.
Elon Musk. We need to talk about how short this tie is.
It's like a little clown tie or like.
Dude.
Elon's the only person who can smile upside down. Have you noticed that? When he's smiling, it's upside down and it works somehow. Yeah, he can smile in a frown way.
Yeah.
It's like a Pee Wee Herman tie. It's a Pee Wee Herman wears a bow tie, which is really tiny.
Where's my money?
Where's my electric car?
2 weeks.
Where's my?
Yeah, we'll have all the voices on today's show. This is a packed podcast.
Well, we needed enough
Trump,
Randy
got
back
Pee-wee.
because we haven't had him for 2 or 3 weeks now.
I know.
We need all
We've missed him.
all the different voices.
Oh,
I wanted to. So I guess wait, Randy, you should give your input as well for Drew's dilemma on should he go for
long range Model 3?
He's all in favor of long
Okay.
range. No need for a Y. Which it sounds like neither of you are in favor of for the most part, but
Listen, my thing about the long range 3 is that the battery, dropping the Trump voice, it is tried and true. It does work, you know. With the long range, if you just charge up to 80, 90,
faster charging.
you're fine. You have everything. You still got all that headspace to work with, and over the years, when within the first 5 years, you'll drop the most of your battery degradation that will happen within those first couple of years.
I think in the first 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, then yeah, like I don't even notice that it's dropped. I know it's dropped. I just don't notice it because that's not how you operate the vehicle when you're driving. I never get it down. Besides when I was doing social experiments, I was never trying to actively get it down to 10 or 5 or 3%. So you will have more than enough space to work with, and for those chances that within the next couple years, you know, and this is not being hyper specific for you, Drew, you plan on traveling, you plan on driving. It doesn't hurt to have it, and it's gonna be more affordable than a Model Y. And the overall thing, that the trade-off that I see that you're losing is, are you getting the latest and greatest of the battery cells or the tech with it? No, but
and it does cost more. There's still the cost argument.
it's like $12K, right?
But if they discontinue,
well, now it is. But people are telling me that the price will be honored at the time I ordered. That's what I'm hearing.
So theoretically, if
Tesla's
they discontinue the LFP, they'll offer you the long range price as of March.
51.
assuming
which was 51,000.
Assuming that's not true. Assuming you have to pay today's price. You're still
58, yeah.
You are still long term. I mean, you have to look at it like this way. You know the prices are going to keep going up. The best time to get a Tesla was last year, and the second best time was today.
The year before.
Oh yeah, the year before. And if you want to be really smart,
yeah,
like your ever so handsome and charismatic co-host, you would have got it in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Mike.
Right.
I mean 19. Whatever year I got it, 2019.
I'm talking about Mike.
I got it 4 months earlier than
2019 was
2019.
2 years ago.
But if we call it a certain quarter that is determined by season... No, I'm still in the wrong season for the year. Never mind.
I'm still What blows my mind, if they do end up canceling it, if they say, sorry, we're not doing rear-wheel drive anymore, I will have ordered 2 Teslas that they canceled.
Let's make it a third. Order a Cybertruck.
Order I should have got a single motor Cybertruck.
Tragedies
I keep
happen
ordering
in
these
groups
things.
of 3, they say.
I guess a question that I have
all the
is,
ones I want.
What's stopping you? Well, okay. I know what is stopping you is gas, but how long would you be willing to hold on to the LFP3 reservation, or I guess order, I should say?
That's a good question.
I guess until more options come around, like
change.
Something like either the Aptera finally becomes available and it's like, 400-mile range, that sounds decent for a 2-seater that costs this much. Or around that time, maybe the Hyundai Ioniq 6 comes out, which is kind of your speed with your Sonata. So just a sedan.
I want to talk about that soon.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but,
we'll... I wouldn't choose the Ioniq 6, but go ahead.
But yeah, so like what's...
As far as non-Teslas go, yeah.
I guess how long... You've already waited 2 years, or longer than 2 years, but at least being ready to press the button, you've been waiting 2 years now.
When Randy drove the Model 3 up to my place to visit, that's when this wait started.
Sure. So would it be worth it since you already have, I think, an Aptera on order or something like that, or it's on your radar?
I don't, but I promise if they start deliveries, there will be an Aptera in our life. I promise.
Okay, so then would you be willing to wait that long for an Aptera?
No. For one, I don't know how long the Aptera is going to take because they're a startup and they haven't mass produced a vehicle yet. So I don't believe that they will start deliveries this year. I know that's what they said, but they said the same thing last year and I didn't believe them then and I still don't believe them now. I don't care as long I'm like, take your time. This is an amazing product. It's not going to become outdated and Tesla's not going to make anything that competes with it. It's its own sector. It's its own genre. Mm-hmm. And I honestly haven't seen anything on the market that comes close to the Aptera from Legacy Auto or another startup. So I'm like, take your time with that thing. Yeah. It's no rush. I know for the sake of investors, you got to say, or whatever, it's coming later this year. Okay, sure. Of course it is.
Wink, wink.
I'm sure. Is it in the room with us now? Do you think you're driving? Do you see this Aptera right now?
I have a Waymo.
No, it's like, take your time. There you go. It's a Waymo. And I've got the Leaf. But, like, I don't care how long it takes for them to make that. It's an incredible product that I'm super duper interested in. Solar power, super low energy. Take as long as you can, or don't take as long as it needs. So I would not be shocked if the Aptera doesn't launch until like late 2024, late 2025.
Don't jinx it.
And that's too long for us. Our goal when we announced the Tesla Fund. Our goal when we announced the Tesla Fund was to get one this year. That was where we were putting our foot down. Was like, we don't know what YouTube has in store. Like a lot of people have more consistent incomes with their jobs. They have like scheduled raises or they kind of know what their salary is. We don't have that luxury. So that's why we started the fund, was to just like keep people posted like, hey, if you support us or if you're helping us out, you know exactly where the money's going. And we are transparent with, we're saving up for one now. Here's exactly how much we have. Here's how much we have now. Here's how much we have now. And the whole point of that was we think we can buy a Tesla of some kind. Originally, we were hoping for a lower priced Y. That didn't happen. And then we mentioned along the way, like we could compromise with a 3 because that still has a lot of the Tesla stuff we want. We want the supercharging. We want the autopilot. So the whole hope was this year. And unfortunately, even though I ordered my Model 3 back in March and it said estimated delivery of July, we thought that meant pretty good chance of getting it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not so sure anymore. Now, I'm like seeing another guy who ordered a year ago just get his VIN, not even delivery yet. I'm thinking like, well, what's causing this tremendous backlog? And following the Troy Test-like spreadsheet and following how there hasn't been a LFP Model 3 delivery in like 4 or 5 months now, that's making me question like, how long could this wait be? Could it be infinite if they end up canceling it? And the one thing I do feel a little bit like homage to is we called it the Tesla Fund. So I don't know if I could feel comfortable buying a non-Tesla in replacement of the Model 3.
You can always put out a poll.
A lot of people... I could run a poll. I could gauge the... I mean, I really don't want a non-Tesla. I think I would rather spend the extra money on a long range or spend the extra money on a Y. Here's the other factor we have to consider. My wife is not a big fan of the Model 3 long range because she's like, if we're spending more money, I would rather get the Y at this point. The whole reason we went with the 3 was because of how much cheaper it was than the Y. But if we're having to spend all this extra money on a 3, we'd rather just get the one we originally wanted. I know it's a lot more expensive, but that's kind of where her head is right now, is like, if it's the exact... I told her, like, well, it's longer range and it's dual motor. She's like, yeah, but it's the exact same car. For like $6, or depending on if Tesla honors the pricing or not, it's like $6,000 or $10,000 more than the car we thought we were buying. But it's the same size, it's the same trunk, it's the same whatever. So at least for her and partially for me, I kind of agree with her. It's like that's a lot of money to spend on basically a sedan, and the savings of the Model 3 don't feel as good when it becomes a $60,000 vehicle after tax and all that. So that's where we're at. We're kind of it hasn't been decided on, and that's why I'm asking you guys, because I'm like we haven't reached a conclusion on that subject. But I wouldn't feel comfortable getting a non-Tesla after telling everybody, here's the Tesla fund, here's the Tesla
So
fund.
here's the
They
thing
all
about
thought they were supporting a certain thing.
I want you to also take in consideration 60,000 today is not 60,000 tomorrow. And
No,
you guys
you're right.
you guys could put yourself in a position where you're like, we should have taken the 60,000. The same exact scenario you were in last year when you were in the position of the Model Y, but you're like, we can wait. Like you can always say we should have, could have, whatever yesterday. And
That's very easy with Tesla, especially
with Tesla. Don't look at it as like an additional $6,000 to $10,000 more for the same vehicle, because it's not. You're getting the outside is the outside part, the cabin's the cabin, but the battery's different. The range is different.
I don't think the
motors are different, or there's more motors.
One more.
Yeah.
You're not
double the motor.
You can make a you can
double
also,
the motor.
you can always make the case about why this is not the most cost-effective thing for. It's not worth $6,000 to $10,000 more, and you can make that. You can make that case, but I think being in this position long enough, you definitely can say with confidence, this is as cheap as it's ever going to be as today.
Yeah, probably.
It
depends.
In the near term future.
Or
I could see it getting cheaper in like 5 or 10 years. But
but you already said that's past your deadline, so that doesn't.
That's
count.
out of the question.
So that doesn't. That part doesn't
We're not
matter.
waiting that long.
So, $6,000 to $10,000 right now is as cheap of a upgrade as it's ever going to be worth to you. And don't even
less
look at it
than
like
FSD.
Less than FSD, but don't even look at it like how much of a difference is. Now look at it as like, am I paying 60 or am I going to be paying 68 in 8 weeks? Am I going to be paying 70 come year end? Don't look at what the additional cost is. Look, it's like this is the new price, and you can't go backwards. You can only today or tomorrow, and that's the risk that we all take as early adopters about what it's going to look like for tomorrow. And you've already risked it once, and you lost. Don't gamble that again. Instead, what makes sense to you today if the order gets canceled, right? Obviously, if we're entertaining all the others, if the order gets canceled, which one makes the most sense for you today, regardless of the price? Because what's more important to you then? Are you trying to save money, or are you trying to get a Tesla? Are you trying to get a Tesla, or are you trying to get an EV? Are you trying to get a Tesla or a non-Tesla? You've already assessed the priority of what's important to you. Money is obviously money is a factor, but we have to also realize that it is all kind of it's this by design is kind of becoming a Tesla is a luxury vehicle now, just by the taxes that you have to pay on it. We wouldn't have these types of conversations with a gas vehicle. You wouldn't even need to buy a new. So then maybe the other option is look at the used inventory of what you can get at that time. Buy a used vehicle.
I have been doing used inventory searches.
I would say that's if money is an important element for you, which I mean to a certain threshold, money's obviously important.
It is.
Then used inventory has its own perks too. Are you the first owner? No. But now, if I may speak from experience, I'm not the first owner in this house, but this house is only 7 months old. I sure as hell feel like I'm going to be the first owner of this house long term.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, like, what's first owner really mean? Was the car in an accident? No. Does it have a salvage title?
Right.
No. Then,
That part doesn't bother me. What bothers me is it costs more to get a used inventory.
Yeah, all right.
I haven't found
Tell you what, Jeremy.
any Model 3 cheaper than the one on order.
If that doesn't work out, you can't find one.
I was going to say.
My car for $80,000.
What?
How much?
80.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
No, we had a whole show about
That's right.
how much yours cost.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Oh, I was gonna say I found a 2018 Tesla Model S for $68,000. That only has 29,000 miles on it. You should go for it. It's blue.
It's like I'm not against going used to save money, but it has to be those two things. I won't go used and pay more. That's my compromise.
That's the
I won't
issue.
pay more
You
to be a second owner.
You're in the the contradiction.
And that's what happens with wait times.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I mentioned maybe if you feel that guilt of promising initially, I guess promising through your words that you're going to get a Tesla this year and it's just not possible anymore. It's out of your control. Like basically if you wanted to get a Tesla right now.
Did what I could.
Yeah, you did what you could. But yeah, it's not your fault. And I guess what I'm getting at is I think if you put a poll out there or gauged a few people's responses and those who directly supported through Patreon memberships or those even just as a community, if there is a non-Tesla out there that you can get today / next week or whatever, is it okay to get it? Or maybe not okay, but like, I don't know. Just if you need to clear your conscience with your audience on it to justify getting a non-Tesla for something that you can afford, go for it. Because sticking in this contradiction phase of like, I want a Tesla now, but I can't, and we don't know whenever this thing is going to come. It could come next week. You could get your VIN next week, and we don't know. But that's the waiting game.
Yeah, that's the weird thing.
So
yeah,
putting it out there isn't a bad idea either, because you're not saying I'm definitively buying a non-Tesla. It's more of just, is it okay if we open up the floodgates to not just Teslas, but ID4s or Ioniq 5s or EV6s or anything else around there, or even a Bolt? That'd be hilarious. I got a $25,000 or $26,000 Bolt.
Yeah. Sure.
So there are options.
Well, you asked how long I was willing to wait. We haven't agreed on a timeline yet, but I think that part of the reason we wanted to go with the cheaper one was because we knew we could get that sooner, or at least we thought we could.
It's now gone the
That was
opposite
the thought
way.
process.
It used to be up there with the performance, and now it's opposite. Now it takes longer, kind of like a Y.
Yeah. Yeah, specifically the rear-wheel drive, it seems. I don't see the wait times as long with the long range. But part of that was like, well, we can get it sooner because it costs less and it'll take us less time to save up for. Because with YouTube, you don't know what you're going to make every month. So it's very hard to make big purchase plans and long-term plans. And that's why we try to avoid loans if at all possible, because we just don't know what YouTube has in store. It could crash. It could do great. But I don't want to sign a big loan and then have YouTube not perform great afterwards, and now we're struggling to pay the car off. I don't want to be in that situation. So that's why we're okay with buying expensive things, but usually in upfront, because we know, okay, that's ours. Even if YouTube crashes and burns or something goes wrong, we'll own it. They can't take that away from us. We got it. So now that we're kind of being forced to wait, it's making me wonder if spending more on the car is okay, because we'll at least know what we have. We'll have more saved up. Tesla fund update, and it goes past the needle.
There's extra
Here's
numbers.
the Tesla fund going beyond beyond the numbers. But the downside is if we do switch to a Model Y, we will lose that $250 deposit, which kind of sucks. Just on principle, that's a big bummer.
Sure.
To be like, that was $250 for nothing. That went, just basically set it on fire. I guess that's our Tesla donation.
No. You helped funded the autopilot team in making full self-driving a better product. Think of it that way.
That's what we did. It's a donation. We made a Patreon donation to Tesla directly. And they didn't have to share the funds.
I guess where I'm getting at is I think your audience is a lot more forgiving than you might think. I think they would. People want you to get an electric car as soon as possible because they want to see you make content with an EV. That's partially why people watch you, because they watch you for your personality and they want to see what your opinion is on something. So even if it's a non-Tesla, if you're giving your 2 cents about the Ioniq 5 and living with it for a month, I don't think it's a bad deal.
It won't be the Ioniq 5, I promise. But there's too many white bezels in that thing. But on that,
But the Ioniq 6 though,
I'm really
that one no white bezels.
mayonnaise sandwich car.
What's wrong with mayonnaise in a sandwich?
just a mayonnaise sandwich, nothing else. No, I was happy with the range figures they provided, but did you see the event? Did you see the live stream they had?
I've only heard it was pretty hilarious at the beginning with some crypto talk, right? Or not crypto, but Metaverse or something.
Yeah, they kept talking about the Metaverse for like random things, and I don't know how it related to the car, but they said this car would be perfect for your... It will drive you to your Metaverse development company, and you'll have fashion shows for your Nintendo Me avatars, or I don't... It was so bizarre. I saw clips. It made no sense, but to be honest, I truly just don't have much interest in buying a non-Tesla from the ones I've seen. And I don't think my wife does either. I don't think she's super on board with it. Even if the rear-wheel drive was canceled, we would probably rather just save up for a Y, since the wait time on the Y is so long anyway. There's actually a friend we had. He hasn't agreed to it, but there was a friend we had that ordered a Model Y, almost your exact model, Mike, but you can modify the order.
A lot of people ordered mine.
He ordered a Model Y, back in December, and he's still waiting on his. And he said he wasn't sure if he was going to go through with the order because of how long the wait time is, so it's kind of like changing his plans and stuff. And we kind of reached out to him, and we were like, because he ordered back when it was, I think, 58,000 for the long range. And we were like, if you're thinking of not going through with it, we may be interested in buying yours. We were like, we'll pay more than you paid, but not as much as it cost new. But he hasn't gotten back to us on that, so I don't think it's going to happen. But I was willing to weigh that option because we knew him pretty well, so it wasn't like buying it off of eBay or Facebook. But
No.
It was just a guy we knew that was thinking of not going through with his Model Y on order, but he had legacy pricing. So we were like, that's kind of tempting. But I kind of wish they would launch the 4680 Model Y on the configurator, because I think that would be the one we'd get if they cancel the rear-wheel drive. If we were splurging for a Y, we would get the cheapest one.
I wonder how quick those things go out of stock. Because if it's
I think very quick.
If it's like maybe every month that they reach out, this is the most ridiculous option I could think of. You could get a little plot of land in Austin, Texas somewhere. put a nice little crappy mobile home on it, a little tiny tent trailer or something like that, and then order a Model Y, and then they'll reach out to you hopefully the next month. So this would be like maybe November, realistically, if we're going with realistic timelines and feasible options. It'd be November that possibly you could get a 4680Y, but that'd be a lot of headache and struggle just to get a car that
I probably wouldn't.
wasn't even your first. Well, you want it to be your first option, but it's just, like I said, you have to go through Fantasyland to try to get it. So
they've appeared on existing inventory before. It's not very common, but I've seen him. I've seen one. It was in Florida though, so you'd
Florida.
have to pay extra to transport it, or you'd have to go. I don't know if they even do that, but it was. I'm frustrated because I thought when I placed my order, this whole deciding process was over with. I thought we were done with this. And now I feel like we're opening the door again, like, oh, okay, well, what should we do now? And I'm like, well, should I reserve a Model Y long range and hope that they offer accelerated delivery and then get that one? Or maybe by the time the long range is ready, we could afford it, because it might be another year before I can get one. So should I? But that means driving a gas car for another year, and I don't want to do that. So like we're taking off on a road trip tomorrow. This is the road trip we were hoping to do in the Tesla. Like the whole reason we wanted it originally, if you got the white interior, it said June. And then the hour before we ordered, it said July. So we were like, okay, this is cutting close. But we were like, we're going to go up and visit my family, which is like a big, long drive. We'll get the car right before that. And as soon as we get it, we'll head up north. And now we're just doing it with the gas car because we want to see my family. But car's not here, and I don't think it's going to get here anytime soon. So we're already spending money on not having the Tesla at this point. Which sucks.
That does suck. You have to adjust the rest of your life for like around something that's so out of your control, and
yes,
no amount of preparing, premeditation, anticipation, nothing still gets you that ready for it, and it's like there's nothing you could do to help. It's just you're sitting there, you're just waiting. There's nothing you could do.
The guy who texts me after you order, he's ghosted me. He won't respond to my texts, which is like typical Tesla. But like I've always heard and I've always noticed, even since before we got the car, that Tesla has a very big problem with communication with just support agents, and they don't know what they're talking about a lot of the time. And
No.
I just had an online chat with one like a year ago before I even placed my order about solar, because it was hot here and the electric bills get high when you run the AC all day. So I was just like, do you put solar on this kind of roof? And they said, no, we don't. And I said, okay, thank you. And I left. And then I was getting texts following days later saying, would you like to complete your Model Y order? I was like, I didn't even ask about the Model Y. Like, I wasn't doing anything. They were like, so can we get you to place a deposit down today, or which configuration? I was like, I didn't even ask about that. And or later they were like, oh, would you like to go through with your solar package? Do you want a solar roof or the solar panels? I was like, you literally told me on the chat that you can't do it on my roof. Why are we talking right now? Why are you sending follow-ups to someone that you said, no, we can't help you?
Yeah, working with
so there's all kinds of.
I was gonna say working with Tesla can be a headache. It's something with the solar my mom did, where I advocated for her to go for Tesla solar because she was looking to get solar, and she went through it, and every single day it was Tesla hounding her, and she's like, "Well,
right.
I spoke with you the other day saying this is what's happening, and this is what's going on, and this is what we agreed on," and the person either gets confused or they say okay, and then the next day it happens again. So she, just because it was so tough to work with Tesla, she's like, I'm canceling the order. I'm going with another company who's a little bit more understanding and will respect the deal and the conversations that we had.
I get it.
Yesterday. So
right.
Dealing with a company that's very innovative but doesn't have the best communication is frustrating. And
it is.
I've had that as well with you and I are very much branched realities, where I ordered the same time you did, but we kept ours, and then it went through all the different revisions that the Y went through in the order page, and then finally last minute, okay, we'll give you the car, but you're gonna have to revise your order again, and it's gonna cost you a whole lot more, and it's a headache, which is why
So we might both have to revise our orders, yeah.
We definitely will in the future with our Cybertruck, but yeah.
Oh yeah, everyone will.
But yeah, it is a headache.
There's no way
It's
around
tough.
that.
Tesla's a tough company to work with, and both industry side that we've seen with Bollinger trying to get the plug on their car that doesn't exist really, and then to Aptera, but then also down to the consumer side with you, where it's like, just give me the car. I have the money. I'm throwing you the money. Just give me the car. Or just be a little bit more communicative of what's going on. Like, why is there no LFP3s coming out right now? Like, just give me someone from the factory floor.
I'd love an update.
Or someone
Or like
from
a
logistics.
long-term answer. Yeah, just say like, we're slowing down on your configuration, but we do plan on making them later. Like, that would put me at ease to just know it'll be late, but we're still going to do it, and we'll honor your price. It's like, okay, don't need to think about changing or don't need to think about upgrading or anything. Just let me know that you're not killing it off, because right now it's like up in the air, Like they can't decide if they want to keep making it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll throw in 2170 cells at the last second. That would be kind of annoying.
Yeah.
That would suck. But as far as non-Teslas go, Randy and I have had a lot of conversations off the record about an EV that I think you were thinking of, because you guys were thinking of upgrading or changing to a different vehicle since you have your son on the way. How did that research project go? How did you figure out what you wanted, or has a decision been made?
I'll answer the last part first. No, a decision hasn't been made.
Okay. Gotcha.
Good. And then last second, I don't like what I'm seeing.
This is on an EV.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Non-Tesla EV, and honestly, it's just because of the wait time. First and foremost, like I don't want to wait a year if I need a easy accessibility to a car seat, in months, not 6 months, not Anyway, so Drew and I had like Harry Potter books length worth of conversation back and forth of just
they were
full-fledged it's such a he's the Johnny to my Steve or Steve to my where we nitpick so hard at the little thing and we why do you think that like we broke it down to its atoms, it feels like, to understand. And without you trying, because it didn't really work, you didn't do it, but it kind of happened. I did change my mind between Ioniq and EV6, Ioniq 5 and EV6, for a very, very, very long journey of this. And it took about a little over 2 weeks of me just daily research. Every video, my YouTube recommendations has been thrown out the window, like all that, just because I went so hard in the deep dive, because I wanted to understand everything I could. I was so close to saying, final vote, Ioniq 5. And then at the last moment, I was like, if I had to, EV6. And
me too.
The problem is, with all of it, is it's a compromise that I just don't like. And
what's the compromise? That it's not a Tesla, or
it's too square?
No. It's too. Okay, I'm gonna give you my list in no particular order of importance.
Okay.
Cargo space in the front, non-existent. In the trunk, smaller than the Model 3. It does not have preconditioning of the battery when you're going to charge it. Ioniq 6 does.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Ioniq 6 does. But
Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6?
Ioniq 6 will now precondition, get the battery ready for charging. Okay. Ioniq 5 and EV6 does not. I know, but I'm just saying that that's what I realized moving away from Tesla. Things that I always thought was like expected, is not there.
Yeah.
I don't like the cabin compromises on both, and I was nitpicking. I was picking my favorite of the two I don't really care for, and Drew and I had a pretty in depth about the flawed logic of two displays, and one's being obstructed how you drive, and.
Yeah, Mike pointed that out as soon as he got in it.
I can't see anything.
It's
this needs a yoke.
No.
And then the
or a smaller screen, one or the other.
You have or a smaller screen. The buttons, even when I was like nitpicking the buttons and how you were to access certain things, the one on the Ioniq 5 is actually not intuitive. You could hit the wrong button when you're trying to turn something on, whereas EV6, I don't actually care for the knob that's on the bottom right here, when you're changing your gears.
No, I don't like
when
that.
I am used to boom, 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 you know, all right, here, I like it all at.
I don't think any kind of control should be in that area.
No.
Like, I think that should all be up here and to the side, not in the armrest place. That's not where gear selectors should be.
But not only that, then, speaking of that center console area, I don't like how the Ionic 5, where you have to set your phone for wireless charging, where it's tucked away and it's hiding, and for you to access CarPlay, you still have to run a cable all the way up to the center.
It's a wired CarPlay, right?
They're both wired
It's not
CarPlays.
wireless?
They're both wired.
I
And
see.
you have to use a port that involves you going through and connecting basically across to it. And it's still
And our iPhones might go USB-C in a couple of years, so...
USB-C is another one.
Well, I guess that comes from the USB-A port, so it's probably easy to swap out, right?
Well,
Is CarPlay through Type-C?
no, it could be Type A. It is Type A. It could.
Okay.
But the thing is,
I hate that there's Type A.
I know the data transfer, or not the data transfer, but both cars offer 2 up front for charging, but only one would be for CarPlay, and then the other one is a significant. It's not even a fast charging. It doesn't do anything. It kind of plugs it in. They both both have backseat charging. How you need it, but then
Yeah.
you're getting these trade-offs. Okay. Pausing from the cabin really quickly. Why I both of them that I don't like on the outside is I was like, you know what? It's still feeling kind of relatively smaller because they sit a little bit lower than I would have liked. Even as these crossovers or SUVs, they sit lower. But
Yeah.
then I just saw the Ioniq 6, and it got worse. It has worse. It has a trunk. It doesn't even have a hatchback. It has a trunk, and I'm like, the Ioniq.
No, it's a sedan. That's yeah.
It's like
It's
a Model
worse.
3 situation where it looks like it has a
worse.
hatch, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
But
terrible.
the range is much better.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you
That's
get
the
the
Ioniq
Ioniq 6 gives you a better range and preconditions the battery and better 2022 or 2023 and you get black bezel. Yeah.
What an upgrade.
Much better.
Okay, I've been pooping on the Ioniq. One thing I like about the Ioniq 5 is the glove compartment is like a drawer. It opens up and it closes.
It's huge.
It's
too.
cool. That's
And it's
cool.
like,
It actually has
goes way
one
far back.
versus a lot of EVs that kind of just, no, we don't have any space.
Yeah.
Somehow.
But ultimately, why I
Looking at
would
you.
choose EV6
BMW.
over Ioniq 5 is how every video I've watched, the handling of it, EV6 has better handling, and you are more like in control, whereas Ioniq 5 would give you more of the it's kind of looser, and they said when you drive, you feel more of the bumps or things that you would get through it over EV6 just by a little
Yeah.
bit, but it is noticeable. But
I heard that as well.
Ioniq 5 gives you the more. It's supposed to be the more relaxed experience, but they're both. It's owned by. It's all the same. So we're nitpicking.
Yeah, it's
at
like
this
a
point.
skin.
Yeah, and now if I'm to nitpick, Ioniq 5 gives you sunroof, whereas EV6 does not, and I like the sunroof. But EV6 has the better interior, cloth or vegan leather that they would use. They have. I think I actually like the EV6 colors more, even though Ioniq 5 gives you a teal, closest thing to green. I actually like the dark blue of EV6 the most out of all of it. But where it all becomes a compromise is that I want the panoramic overhead behind me, so I don't feel claustrophobic. I want the cargo space more than anything. I want the ability to control my suspension or that of close to it, the way or even the acceleration. If I can change it to with the steering wheel, I want the steering wheel to either be sports, standard, or comfort. And you don't get those customizations. You get the customizations on those two other vehicles. You get them with the one. What do they call it? The one pedal brake or one pedal driving, where basically they have the really aggressive.
The regen.
Yeah, it's very aggressive, which is cool. I like all that, but
Yeah.
I get that on the Tesla. Just fine.
I'd rather just have it at full at all times, but
yeah.
that's just me.
I've gotten so used to it, I prefer it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the cargo space is the most important part for me, outside of just cabin space. I like that. Going back to our earlier discussion, I like the supercharging network still over anything else, and it's simple and it's clean.
Sure.
I like
Of
the
course.
port that it uses to charge it. Everything about the Tesla that I love, it's not that I take for granted, but I would hope that these other alternatives would have something close to it. And it's close with it, quotations, but
It's getting there.
it's a compromise. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this generation of either of EV6 or Ioniq 5 this year.
They're a good start, though.
It's a good start.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather wait 1 to 2 more years, but
I think they're the Wonder Twins right now of the legacy auto EVs.
yeah, I agree.
It's a solid platform.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
And
But now if
there's also the what's it called, the GV60 that
60? Yeah,
Genesis
I was
makes.
just watching a
Have you
video
looked at
on
that yet, Randy?
I browsed on the site, I was looking at it. Now the overall thing though of me
I don't
saying-
think you'll like it, personally.
No, I don't care for it. I went through every single car.
Right.
And it came down
It
to
has
those.
the sphere spinning thing.
It's got no reason to be
in
there.
It's just supposed to be a more luxurious version of these two,
Eh.
which I don't think Randy's the kind to pay extra for that luxury.
No.
So
And now, it's a good start with these cars, but it's not where I would be willing to spend money for it. So I would wait.
okay.
But now the problem is, I'm back at the same spot where I'm at now, where it's like, what if I needed something in a couple months and not a year or two? Then I would just be better off getting a Model Y. But I'm paying. And also, I didn't even say this part. EV6, my exact configuration. There's one here nearby that I could go look at. And the biggest thing.
Oh, really?
Yes. I don't.
That'd be fun.
I don't. I have to do a bit of a drive that I don't want to do right now. But if it's still there, maybe after this weekend, I'll do it. But it is here. It's close by where I can drive to it. I don't like when it comes to either of these cars. I'm actually not going to be paying the $50,000 or whatever. I'm paying that plus whatever the dealership puts on.
Yeah.
Right.
And I hate
That's
that.
the annoying part.
I hate that.
Me
then
too.
Then I'll just go get a Tesla, because what I pay is what I pay. What I see is what I pay.
The dealer markup is built in already.
Yeah.
It's already,
It's like
it's factored in.
54,000 or 58, and then they're like, no, it's closer to 60 or 65, 70. No. No.
Why?
No,
Why?
I'm not doing that.
I would, yeah, I would. I do not think it's the same thing to buy a $60,000 Tesla versus a $40,000 non-Tesla with a $20,000 markup. To me, that's not the same
There's
thing.
a lot of miscommunication right
Like,
there.
Out of principle alone, just what that supports and what that allows for, I'm fundamentally against. So I have a hard time accepting that too. If we did go the non-Tesla route, is figuring out that, we're paying a premium for this pointless middleman.
And then you had to negotiate that price, and
Uh-huh.
I like that I didn't have to negotiate anything with Tesla. I just knew what I was working with. There, you have to go back to and I negotiate hard, and I can make it work, but I don't like the dance. I don't like when I got
No, me neither.
salesmen at my door trying to, hey, have you thought about get out? That had happened last night. I'm like, no, dude, it's 2022. Like, if I want something, I could Google it. Get off my property.
Right.
Get off my property.
Right. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Don't let people show up to your place. So
Have you thought about anything?
yeah, I think
Sorry. Have you thought about anything like a Volvo
That's right.
or something like that?
I've looked
Randy?
at all of those other ones, and I
Okay.
just
You probably looked at the whole list that me and Drew went over.
yeah, and also future. Like, I wanted to see what the numbers were going to be for Ioniq 6. The reason why I chose those two that I picked was because I like the range the charging speeds or the efficiency of the charging, the cabin space, and the price, all right there. There was that happy medium, and everything else is a fair compromise. But then when I did the deeper dives into it with how much cabin space are you working with, or how much cargo space, or what's the real price going to be of the car, I'm like, oh, God, this is so tiresome just as a whole. I was getting fatigued after week 2. I was like, all right, cool cars. Maybe I would feel differently if I didn't have to go deal with maybe the dealership portion of it. If I could just order straight from and they bring it to me, then I might feel different.
I wish they did that.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I have looked at them, and all the other cars are cool, but it's just, I'm stuck in my ways with Tesla, and there is a level of bias that's there with it too that I accept.
Mm-hmm.
Something that may have spoiled you guys and hopefully me soon as well is I've been on subreddits for different non-Tesla EVs, and there's a lot of people, especially with the Bolt, complaining about the app integration on the phone with the car, and how it just like flat out doesn't work, and it won't tell you the car's state of charge and stuff like that. And that's something we're probably taking for granted when we tell people, maybe you should consider getting a non-Tesla, is that these legacy companies, sure, they may not have the best software on their cars, but that also bleeds into the phone app too. And they're very clunky, and they're using very dated architectures, and they don't get updated to the new versions of phones. And I do think that's probably something we should give more credit to Tesla with, is how this sounds like a really minor detail, but I don't even have my car yet, but I can already tell Tesla, the mobile app, cares about attention to detail, because just of like the animation when I swipe between these cards on the the highlight of the agreements like changes in size as you're swiping between, and I'm like, that's a really subtle, really like minor animation glyph that they put work into, and that tells me that they're putting that amount of attention to detail to all kinds of features within the app. And I just have not seen that in a non-Tesla. They either don't have apps that can do very much in the first place, or they don't give much attention to their apps because this is not their bread and butter, and a lot of most of their customers are not driving EVs, and most of them are barely driving connected cars. So that's another big compromise when you step outside of that ecosystem, is just the mobile phone communication. So that's another reason we're really, like, if we were open to buying a non-Tesla at this point, I think we would go with something like the Kia EV6, which we've talked about in the previous show, just like you said, for the charging speed. I like the design. I think it looks cool from the outside. Not more than a Tesla, but just like you said, for the price and the charging speed. It's like that perfect balance of all the most crucial factors for us. But
I wish it just sat a little bit higher. It's very sporty, and it reminds me of a Subaru. I think the Crossback. It reminds me of one of the Subarus where it's like, it Crosstrek. It's just a little bit lower than but that's me intentionally kind of nitpicking between the two, whereas the Ioniq 6 looks bigger, like it feels bigger, and I get more Model Y or Model X vibes from it, and that's an aesthetic preference at that point. But yeah, overall EV6, Ioniq 5, I mean, they're one of the two the same thing. It's like you're looking you look at any of these Android phones and how you're going to go so much of trying to be a little different, but it's all running the same infrastructure or architect of it. So those two have the best bang for its buck for what it can be, but that's if we're trying to be very practical. If we're getting weird with it, then I would do Rivian or Aptera, but I can't. Oh yeah, I can't get.
I'd love to get a Rivian. It's just the wait time and the price is so crazy, but I do love watching. I will watch any video on the Rivian. I will.
Yeah,
it's such a solid product they came out with. It's great.
Yeah,
but not my budget. And I have to tell a brief story. I had to go to the dentist, which is we go to a dentist that's kind of far away from us, and we were also moving furniture from the nearby town that we go to get our teeth cleaned and everything. So because we were trying to knock it out in one trip, because it's a bit of a drive, we had to borrow my grandparents' pickup truck and take that to where the dentist is, which is in kind of this like packed kind of downtown area. So we had to parallel park with the pickup truck. Woo. And I was like, oh, this is so...
It's a journey.
It was so like, it reminded me why I don't want a pickup truck. And I was driving it on the freeway and driving it through town. And I was like, oh my God, I hate this feeling. I hate driving this. It was like a pretty big, wasn't F-150 size, but it was like a Nissan
Titan.
I forget what it's called, but Titan or something like that. Yeah, but it was bigger than a Tacoma, that's for sure. That's what I have more experience with. And Louise was like, do you still want to convince me one day to get a Cybertruck? And I'm like, anytime I ask for a pickup truck, remind me, just have me drive one of these again. Because I really didn't enjoy being that high off the ground and being that big when I'm trying to park. And the other day we were like, okay, we better start packing for the trip. So we opened the trunk to our Sonata, and my best friend Ross, while we were on our trip to Hawaii, had completely cleaned the entire car. Just because he's a nice guy. And he like vacuumed the whole thing, and he changed the oil in it and everything, because I guess he was using it a little bit while we were gone. So he's like, I fixed it up for you. And we got back from our trip end of June, like June 30th. Yesterday we opened the trunk and realized he had cleaned the trunk as well. So we had gone 2 weeks without looking in our trunk a single time. Just in day-to-day use, like just driving for groceries and stuff. And we were like, oh, let's start loading stuff. We better clean out the back, because we knew it was messy back there. And we opened it up and everything was pristine and missing all these... he put the tennis rackets in the back in this nice orderly fashion. We were like, oh, hey, wow, that was really nice of him. So we were like, okay, we probably don't need a Model Y if we don't use our trunk for this long a period. Like, we didn't even look in that car because we were in Hawaii for over a week. It was like 4 weeks had gone by. We didn't even look inside our trunk. So storage space is probably not too big. It shouldn't be as big a concern as it has been. Mm-hmm. But maybe in the future it will be a bigger concern if our family expands and that kind of thing. But once again, reassured me. I definitely want the car I ordered. I hope they make it in a timely fashion. But whether or not we upgrade it to something else, I feel like I'll probably revisit that subject near the end of the year. If it's like Christmas and we still don't have it, then we should probably do something about it. But hopefully we get more answers by then. Yeah. Anyway, closing thoughts, gents?
That was it?
Nothing. No non-Teslas for the Randy family.
Not right now. Yeah,
Ioniq 6 looks cool, but also looks like a weird Porsche snail. So, yeah. I think that's all that's in my mind right now.
Snail.
The Porsche snail.
Yeah. And it's probably slower than a Porsche, too. So.
Yeah. Apparently, I guess one last note. I did a quick little conversion because they only showed the WLTP or whatever efficiency of it.
Oh, right.
Or like how many miles it has. So I quickly converted it to the EPA, which is like a 1.12 ratio or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's about 338 or 340 miles of range. So for EPA. But
that's pretty good.
I would maybe go a little bit more conservative and say maybe it's 320 range or miles of range.
Sure. But it's
pretty good for a sedan.
Really good for a non-Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
it's hard to find any non-Tesla that goes that far.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So that makes me excited for it.
Yes.
I still need to go test drive all these cars. I'm still being very busy with everything else, so I've had no time to check out the EV6 or the Ioniq. I've already checked out the Ioniq 5. But
I know.
EV6, the new Bolt, everything else, I'll get to it maybe in a month when things start to cool down.
We'll see. Sure. Fair enough. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Hopefully, I'll be somewhere else. But see you all, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.